Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
With me, I have today the former editor of Business World and author of the new book, The Early Indians, which will be out in December, Tony Joseph.
Hi.
Hi, sir. Welcome.
Hi, Mira.
I was wondering, this book, why have you written it now? Why in this charged atmosphere?
This book could not have been written earlier. This book is being written now because in the last couple of years, a maximum of 3-4 years, a large number of new studies, especially that uses ancient DNA, has changed our understanding of prehistory across the world, not just in India, across the world. So for the first time, we have clear answers to questions that have been debated about, argued about, fought over for decades. Who were the Harappans? Where did they come from? Where did they go? Why did we have to wait a millennium and a half for the next urbanization of India? Where did the Indo-European languages come from? Where did the Austroasiatic languages, the Mundari, the Khasi, where did they come from? And what languages did they speak? So there are a large number of questions that are now getting clarity because population genetics using ancient DNA is providing answers to who moved when, where.
Right.
And that then allows you to make conclusions or you make deductions about the rest of the questions as well.
Yeah. So there is this popular notion that there could be a thing such as pure Indians, and your book says that it's not true. We are actually a pizza on which there is a base, there are toppings. So could you explain that?
I mean, there is the idea of a pure race is it's meaningless. There's nobody anywhere in the world who can claim to be pure, except if you're talking about somebody in a very remote place who hasn't had any interaction with the rest of the world for 5,000 years. And as far as I know, it'd be very difficult to find anybody who can really say that we have had no interaction. So pure race is a meaningless word, has no meaning.
Yeah.
Populations of almost all parts of the world, whether you're talking about US, Europe, West Asia, India, South Asia, all of it are mixtures of populations that have come at various periods of time. So if the best way to understand the Indian population is to look at it as there is a certain, look at it as a pizza, the Indian pizza. So you have the base which consists of the first Indians or people who arrived in India first from, this is part of the well-known out of Africa migrations. They arrived in India, would have arrived in India around 65,000 years ago. And without them, without that base, the pizza doesn't exist. No matter where in the class hierarchy you are, where in the caste hierarchy you are, no matter what language you speak, no matter which region you inhabit in, you will find the base of the pizza, which is the ancestry of the first Indians who arrived about 65,000 years ago. And then there are many other migrations that contributed to making us who we are. And for example, there was a significant migration from the Zagros region of Iran, about agriculturalists who came and helped catalyze the agricultural revolution in the northwestern part of India.
The people who settled down.
People who settled down, and that is where you see the first evidence of agriculture. That's starting around 7000 BCE. And so the agricultural revolution in India is catalyzed. It may have started before they came, but it was definitely catalyzed by the arrival of significant West Asian agriculturists. They may have been herders at that time from Iran. And it is that agricultural revolution in the northwestern part of India that gradually evolves into the Harappan civilization. And so that's the second migration. The third migration is that we today have Austroasiatic languages. We have 3 or 4 major language families: the Dravidian, the Indo-European, Austroasiatic, and Tibeto-Burman. Not to speak of the language that is spoken by the Andamanese, which has no other which is not part of a family, which is an isolate. So the Austroasiatic language family speakers, we know that they arrived from East Asia around 2000 BCE, and we also know that the Indo-European language speakers, who called themselves Aryans, came after 2000 BCE. So these are the main parts. These are the things that have fallen on top of the pizza.
Yeah.
You could look at the population that created the agricultural revolution and the Harappan civilization, which is a mix of West Asian agriculturalists and the first Indians. That's the sauce that is spread all over the pizza, because when the civilization declined, that population spread north, south, east, west, everywhere. So that's the sauce that has spread on top of the base of the pizza. And then you have everything else. You have the cheese, the capsicum, the everything else which has come, and which is spread not necessarily in a uniform manner, but some parts of the population may have more of this and less of that. But that's the combination that makes up India today. Of course, this doesn't include a large number of migrations, which may not have left a genetic impact, but has had a large impact on our culture. The passes are not a very large in number, but they have had a large impact on our culture. So that's what makes up the Indian population.
So, for those who don't know, this year there was a skeleton discovered at Rakhigari, a 4,500-year-old skeleton, and that kind of created a lot of news, a lot of buzz, because it seemed to suggest that the Aryans had come after the Harappan civilization declined, and which would mean that, like in popular parlance, Hindus were not from Harappa, or it's not purely there's rituals and ritualistic and cultural behaviors are not for Harappa?
No, I think it would be incorrect to say Hinduism before or after. That would be incorrect, because then we have to define, because there has been, all cultures are mixtures. What you can say is that as has always been the mainstream theory has always been that the Indo-European language speakers came from Central Asia, the steppe region, and they came after the Harappan civilization, or around the time of the Harappan civilization decline. So it would be, so you would expect not to find ancient DNA of steppe migrations in mature Harappan skeleton, because that is the theory, that there will not be. Because that's something that came after. And the skeleton that has been found in Rakhigari, the results are not published yet, but according to newspaper interviews that have been given by people who are involved in that research, there is no suggestion of a Central Asian or a steppe ancestry there, which is in line with the understanding that those migrations happened much later.
And I would also like to talk about how there is this interesting part in your book that mentions that why North Indians prefer milk over other sources of protein. And would you like to elaborate on that?
There is a gene mutation that allows people to drink milk even into their adulthood. Now, no other mammal has this ability, right? Because all mammals, they can drink milk when they're children, but they lose that ability to digest milk once they grow into adulthood. But humans have the ability, some humans, not all humans, the minority of humans do have the ability to drink milk into adulthood, which obviously is a mutation that was selected once modern humans started to domesticate cattle and there is availability of milk, and therefore you can. So a study that was done on Indians showed that first of all there is this mutation that allows people to drink milk is not distributed equally
in India.
In India, that there are certain parts of India, especially in the north and the west, that has the mutation, and there are certain parts of India that mutation is absolutely absent. Northeast, for example, and it's much less in the south or in the east. So south, east, northeast are areas where the ability to digest milk after they're adults is much less. So what you see is that that based on this difference in genetic inheritance, there are people who have made trade-offs.
Yeah.
In the north and the west, for example, you can see there is far greater consumption of milk,
Yeah.
and you will see there is far lower consumption of milk in the other regions, south, east, northeast. And on the other hand, there is much greater consumption of meat, fish, and other things, or other kinds of animal protein other than milk, in exactly the regions where the milk consumption is low.
Yeah.
And in precisely the regions where the milk consumption is very high,
Yeah.
there is a far lower consumption of meat, fish. So it allows you then to say that your food choices are not merely political statements,
Yeah.
and that not only the result of socio-political developments. They are also very often the result of the inheritance that you have, and it's not surprising. We are a large country. We are a large country with a very diverse population, with a very diverse. We are the most diverse population on the face of the earth, after Africa.
Yeah.
So this to some extent explains the difference in eating habits between different regions of India.
So, in Mr. Tony Joseph's book, you will find many things like this, and also things like why Harappa was good in ease of doing business, he writes. So, thank you, Tony,
Thank
for
you.
speaking with us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. This is Neera Majumdar for The Print.